Welcome back, and a very special welcome to our next guest. She's a first-time visitor here at Securing America, and we are delighted to make her acquaintance. Her name is Terri Hall, and she is the driving force behind Texans Uniting for Reform and Freedom, known by its acronym, TERF. She is an activist who has devoted her considerable energies, in addition to being a full-time mom and homeschooler and much else, to transportation-related issues. And one of them caught our eye, and we've asked her to come and talk with us about it because it's coming to a theater, or more to the point, a car near you. It's called the Kill Switch, and Terri's going to explain what that is and what it would mean for all of us if suddenly we're driving cars equipped with it. Terri Hall, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for your leadership on this issue, both at the state level in your native Texas, but also at the federal level. I'm excited to hear one of our favorite congressmen, Congressman Scott Perry, is one of your champions in the Washington federal legislature. But give us again the background of what is a kill switch? Is it intended to kill you or something else?
Right. This came in under the Biden infrastructure bill that passed in the fall of 2021. It was one of the first, signature pieces of legislation in the Biden administration. And in this huge bill, over 1,000-page bill that nobody read before they passed it, was buried something under the presumably drunk driving section of the code, something called advanced impaired driving prevention technology. So when it talks about preventing you from driving, that should already prick our ears, right? Because that is going to be the way that they, in essence, have a remote kill switch that will kill the power to your car. So one of the things in that section.
Now, when you say kill it, does that mean, kind of slow it down so that you can pull off safely to the side of the road, or does it mean just suddenly you're without power?
I believe there will be some kind of a warning system that says in a certain amount of time the power will be cut off. Okay. But yes, it will prevent you from driving. So it will cut off the power to your vehicle.
Yeah, which would affect your steering, presumably, in most modern cars, as well as brakes and all the rest of it, right? Yes. So this would be made possible by what kind of system for determining whether to kill the power and so on to your car?
Well, the language in statute is now federal law, and this is supposed to go into our cars starting next year, 2026. So that's very quick timeline we're talking about here. But it's supposed to have basically passive monitoring of the driver. So passive, in a sense, sounds maybe not as threatening, but it also means that it's always ongoing. So they are watching how your car is in the lane placement if you're swerving your vehicle too many times. It also includes eye monitoring, according to the draft rule that came out in December of 2023. That means there's a camera facing the driver at all times that is somehow trying to detect if you're impaired, which, by the way, impaired is not even defined in the law. We know what a drunk driver is, right? It's 0.08 blood alcohol level, but that is not defined in the statute. Now it's going to detect impairment. And if there's potential, that's how it's worded in the law, potential impairment detected, then it can cut off the power and prevent you from driving in your vehicle. And there's a third thing that it includes in this technology, and that's, to me, one of the most frightening things. If having the big daddy government with a camera on you at all times isn't bad enough, it also is going to monitor the air in your car. Because remember, this is hooked under the drunk driving statute. So it's trying to detect if you're potentially a drunk driver. Well, how do you know if it's the driver who has alcohol in their breath or if it's the passengers? You might be the designated driver, right? Which is what they tell us to do if we're being responsible, is to find a designated driver. And that could potentially trigger one of these kill switch events.
Okay, so Terri Hall, you've just, speaking of breathing, you've taken my breath away by talking about the extent to which this kind of surveillance is going to be instituted in everybody who drives a car. Now, this is not going to be backfitted into existing vehicles. Is that right? It's going to be buying a
Moving.
new car in 2026 and going forward, presumably, unless you're successful in
That's
getting
right.
it struck down, right? But talk a little bit more about is anybody else going to be monitoring the surveillance from one of these sensors or another, or is it just the vehicle itself that's doing it, do you think?
That's on obviously a very big concern. Going to get access, right? Is it going to go directly to law enforcement? Is it going to be sent to your insurance company and potentially use it to affect your insurance rates or even your ability to keep car insurance if you have too many of these kill switch events? So we really don't know if it's going to some central office somewhere, how it's actually triggered. And not to mention, this is blatantly unconstitutional. This
Well, I
violates.
should think, but stop on that for a second. Before you get to where the feed goes, what is the Fourth Amendment of the United States, and what does it say that would presumably bear on this?
Absolutely. We are supposed to be protected from illegal searches and seizures of our property. So, an illegal search would be a government camera monitoring your every behavior when you're not guilty of anything. All right. This is sort of like Minority Report stuff.
No warrants or anything, just
From
constant surveillance.
That's exactly right. And so they are taking data points on you at all times that is somehow, I mean, if they are passively monitoring you and being able to cut the power to your car, that means somebody's monitoring this information to be able to trigger that event. So it really is government.
Or at the least, big artificial intelligence would be doing it
Absolutely.
to trigger it. But the short form of it is that there is a level of invasion of your privacy that I suspect very few members of Congress would want to be held responsible for. And yet, you said a number of Republicans did vote for this specific provision to include it in this infrastructure bill. Is that right?
There were, I want to say it was somewhere above 20, but somewhere around 20 something Republicans voted with all the Democrats to pass the Biden infrastructure bill back when it passed in 2021. And then we had another opportunity to vote on this. There was the Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Appropriations Bill back in the fall of 2023. And there was a vote on an amendment that Thomas Massey brought to the floor for us that would have defunded the finalizing of this kill switch, because that was a moving vehicle. It was a way we could do it at the time, lacking any other transportation bills on the floor. And 28 Republicans voted to kill actually, it was 28. It was 19 Republicans, but 28 members of Congress voted to keep
Hold
this
the thought,
technology in your car. In Republicans.
Terry. I've gotten so caught up in the story that I've lost track of my time. We have to take a pause. We'll be right back with more with Terri Hall. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and my apologies to our guest, Terri Hall. I got so engaged in your tale of what is going on with this kill switch, Terri, that I lost track of the time and I had to interrupt you. Forgive me for doing so. I did want you to finish what you were saying as I did, namely that there was another legislative opportunity for members of Congress to oppose this kill switch very specifically. It was tucked into a big piece of legislation, so that's really hard to blame everybody for, even though they, in the end, voted for that bill, the transportation infrastructure bill. But talk a bit about this effort by Thomas Massey to strip it out and what the vote was like then, because we need a baseline for further action here.
Well, it was in the fall of 2023. It was a Transportation, Housing, and Urban Development Appropriations Bill, and it was an amendment to that bill. So it was our opportunity to get an up or down vote to, at this time, it was to prevent the DOT from finalizing the rule. That's what it was supposed to be, defunding the finalizing of the rule. So that was just another way that we could try to stop this kill switch from going to our vehicles. And it failed by just 28 votes in the House. And 19 Republicans voted with those Democrats to keep this technology in your vehicle. And what was really took our notice was the fact that even AOC voted with Massey's amendment because of privacy concerns and basically big government surveillance concerns, and shared our concerns with this. So that means 19 Republicans are to the left of AOC and voted against this amendment. So that gave us the gauge of where we're at with this. But we're going to need to have Congress file a new bill in this new Congress and just have a straight repeal bill. It's literally a one-line bill that says we're going to repeal this technology from going into our cars.
Great, and we understand Congressman Scott Perry rather is willing to do that in the House. Do you have a Senate sponsor as well?
Well, we're working on getting our own senator, Ted Cruz, to file that. He's now the ranking member over that Commerce and Transportation Committee in the Senate. So natural ask is to have our own senator carry that bill for us. And of course, Solicitor General for the state of Texas and is very well aware of the constitutional threat that this would pose to all Americans.
Yeah. And again, you the driving force behind Texas United for Reform and Freedom, also known as TURF. You can follow much more about TURF's work at, what's the website, please?
It's texasturf.org, Texas spelled out, URF as in freedom.org.
Okay, great. So just to bring this up to the moment, you've got profound concerns, and I think we all should have, about a rule that has apparently not yet been finalized. Is that right? So, and this whole rulemaking thing is always a bit dicey. The Supreme Court kind of tried to restrict what these agencies could do in this regard, but Senator Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico, I believe, had a colloquy with, or question and answer, I guess, with Sean Duffy, the incoming transportation secretary, about getting this rule finalized right quick so that, they could begin sticking this big government surveillance state on us. What was the nature of the response from the prospective secretary, and where do you think this goes from here?
Well, I think Duffy was really smart in his answer to the senator and said that he needed to dig into it more before he could make any commitments, which is the smart answer, right? But we would have liked a stronger, rebuttal saying, I'm sorry, we can't support technology that has government cameras in your vehicle monitoring your every move without a warrant, right? I mean, they have no probable cause to do that.
To say nothing of depriving you of the use of your vehicle on whatever basis is decided,
which is
police or just the vehicle's AI or what have you, right?
So we need to elevate this in the Trump administration, get the president's attention on this, get the Secretary of Transportation's attention on this. Obviously, we're already working members of Congress since Duffy hasn't been confirmed just yet. And so we're working all those avenues, and we've actually put together a coalition of national groups that also oppose this. You can imagine, right? So Heritage Action is one of them. Citizens for Renewing America has gone on record opposing this technology. National Motorists Association, which is like a driver's rights type of organization as well. So we're working on all of that to get this elevated so the president can turn this around.
Well, count me personally in, and our Institute for the American Future, I think, would be very happy to be one of the co-sponsors of your efforts as well. So this fits into a larger concern that I have. I must tell you that the surveillance state is ever expanding. I don't know if this is one of your hobby horses. It's one of mine. This Real ID business is another angle where, everything about you can be put on your digital chip in the card.
In fact, we had our House Transportation Committee chair here. I don't know if you know about what happens in Texas, but even though we've had a trifecta of the governor and legislature, both houses of the legislature are dominated by Republicans, they do a power sharing agreement with Democrats in the Texas House. So we've actually had with a Democrat committee chair more than we've had a Republican committee chair over our House Transportation. And the chair of that committee has filed now multiple times. He's done it again this session to do digital IDs here in Texas. And so we're obviously greatly opposed to that. We killed it last time, and we hope to kill it again this time. But it's hard when we're having to work, against the opposing part, the minority party, when we're supposed to be in the majority, and we keep having to, use all of our efforts to kill these bad bills rather than get our good bills through.
I've lost track. I guess they must have sorted out who is the Speaker of the House in
Yes.
Texas, and it's a guy who's done the deal with the Democrats again.
He is a Republican, but he was elected by majority of Democrats. There were only 36 Republicans that voted for him out of 89. So that
It's my
tells you
recollection that the rule of the Republican caucus is you're not supposed to do that.
that's exactly right. He broke the rules. The Republicans broke the rules. So I do believe there will be some censuring by the grassroots through our Republican Party here shortly.
Well, I pray it'll have some effect. Terri Hall, listen, thank you for what you're doing with turf. Thank you for your leadership on this issue. It seems to me Donald Trump has made it very clear in connection with the electric vehicles that he's intent on making sure you can drive the car you want to drive. I would think that one without a kill switch is also in that mode. We'll look forward to seeing what we can do to help you put this up in lights, and Godspeed. Keep up the great work. Thanks to the rest of you for joining us. I hope you'll do so again next time. Until then, go forth and multiply.